Hey guys, Johan Lati from the University of Nice, and to those who are interested, I will be today replicating to the best of my capabilities our presentation at the World Congress of Biomechanics in Dublin last week, showing the results of our pilot study in comparing Nordic hamstring exercise torque to sprint performance variables in team sport athletes. Now, most viewers are probably completely aware of the Nordic hamstring exercise, aka Nordics, and probably also its success in team sport settings in reducing hamstring injuries. In fact, according to Bourne et al., concluding on these 4 studies presented here, if the compliance is met, and at least in a population of sub-elite athletes, a reduction of 50 to 70% in hamstring injuries can possibly be expected, mostly then taking place in sprinting. If we though take a step back momentarily and think of one dilemma or a common dilemma for physiotherapists and strength and conditioning coaches, is that if we think of all the injury sites we have to deal with and performance attributes, and if we have one exercise for every training outcome, we many times run into the issue of having too many exercises and we run out of time. So ideally, we have exercises that stimulate both from an injury prevention and performance perspective, therefore hitting the time efficiency bullseye. Now, if we recall what literature says about the hamstrings in sprinting, we know that it is the muscle group mostly associated with horizontal force, therefore essential to sprint performance. And if we recall what was presented on the Nordics and its success in sprint-related hamstring injuries, some practitioners and scientists asked the question, well, can a bridge be built between the two where it stimulates both areas? But what does the biomechanical literature say on this? Unfortunately, it's quite sparse, but last year there was a good study by Tiller et al. Visualizing quite well and connecting some biomechanical dots where the Nordics and sprinting had actually similar angles where peak EMG activity of the hamstrings was reached. But as most people are fully aware of, the health of the hamstrings from an injury prevention and performance perspective is quite complex, and we have to take into consideration adjacent and distal muscle tissues, their neuromuscular and energy system statuses, and of course the muscle tendon unit tissue itself. And this emphasizes the point that when we look at sprinting and where the peak joint power hits, or the timing of it, we can see from most studies that it is peaking at a very similar time, both at the knee and the hip. So many times we forget to take into consideration that the hamstrings are in fact biarticular and are working very hard at both ends. So our team wanted to take a step back from this and just ask the simple question, what are the associations between sprint mechanical and performance variables with Nordic torque in team sport athletes? So to our methods, we had 19 well-trained football and rugby athletes. 3 weeks of familiarization on the Nordics was used on a new innovative device called the Hamtech that you will soon see from the videos. And on week 4, we did something cool, which was we also got to do maximal testing for unilateral Nordic conditioning in addition to the normal bilateral condition with 2 reps averaged with a 5-second pace. And now you will see from the videos how that was done on the right with a unilateral condition. So for most viewers, the unilateral condition is something quite new, and this machine allowed us to add or assistance or increase resistance if needed in the bilateral condition if someone was strong enough to hold the bottom position. So we think we got quite accurate results on maximal performance in this exercise, which was exciting. Then on week 5, we did sprint testing with 2 times 30 meters using radar so we could get instantaneous velocity data. And then we used Samazino's field method to calculate indirectly maximal horizontal force. And this, again, reminding the audience that although indirect, it might carry high ecological validity in getting an idea of how the hamstrings function for a specific person or athlete. Then to the results. In this simple figure, we can see on the left the bilateral performance and the unilateral performance on the right, both compared in the kicking leg of the athletes. And this bilateral deficit then reached significance with a small effect size. But if we look at the individual data, we can see that some people even had bilateral facilitation. So maybe too early to conclude anything concrete on this, but it was fun to test this. The smallest worthwhile change was 0.08, and the machine's reliability ranged from high to very high. So now to the correlations. On the left, we have the bilateral conditioning, and on the right, we have the unilateral condition. On the y-axis, we have maximal horizontal force production, and on the x-axis, we have maximal Nordic torque, both related to body mass. As we can see, the correlations were weak, and all the other sprint performance and mechanical variables ranged from weak to moderate, and they did not improve when we reported them in absolute values. But it's important at this point to emphasize that we had a small sample size. And there was a cool tweet by Matt Crump a couple of days ago on Twitter emphasizing the error with small sample sizes and correlations. But we were lucky enough, thanks to the quick communication lines opened on Twitter, that to show also in Dublin Goran Markovic's results, looking pretty much at the exact same thing in a study recently accepted in JSCR. On the y-axis, he has then Nordic hamstring strength related to, or torque related to body mass. And then we have the sprint performance of 20 meters on the y-axis, pretty much showing the exact same trend that we showed. So this was exciting and added definitely quality to our presentation in Dublin. So thank you, Markovic, for this. So based on these results, the take-home message was that although Nordics explained some of the variants, the hamstrings assessment in a mainly single joint, slow motion, knee dominant manner did not correlate strongly with sprint mechanical outputs and performance in team sport athletes. Consequently, a more macroscopic approach for physical assessment of the hamstrings for sprint-based sports is likely more preferable, as most people would agree on. I would like to thank our entire team. The master's student Thomas Newell is missing from this picture, so good work. Thank you to him for his help. On the left, we have my supervisor JB Morin, and to his right, we have Andres Heike, very talented young researcher, publishing some cool studies on HD EMG utilization for the hamstrings, and go follow him. He will have a lot of cool stuff coming up. And then we have the inventor of the Hamtech device, JP Giosomo. And if you have any questions concerning the device, the Hamtech device, JP will be happy to answer your questions. Contact him on Twitter. And then we have to the right, we have Pauline Jarris, our lab engineer. Thank you to her too. Also, thank you to Goran Markovic for sharing his data and increasing the, I would say, quality of our presentation. Thank you.